Apart from everything else, the one overriding comment that we have heard in the past week through all the shock and grief at the passing of Queen Elizabeth was the simple conclusion, don't the Poms do it well? And so it has been, and so it will be today. But closer to home, the picture is not so encouraging. Let's go north to Queensland. In June, the Queensland government announced a commission of inquiry into DNA testing at the state-run forensic laboratory. For months, the Queensland government has been under attack on what seems an obscure issue, DNA testing thresholds. The trouble is, this is anything but obscure. Now, as we all know these days, DNA testing is a crucial element in the criminal justice system. The argument in Queensland was that not all DNA samples were being fully tested due to a, quote, testing threshold. The police have argued that results could have been possible from additional testing. You might recall I mentioned the forensic biologist, Dr. Kirsty Wright, who ran the National Criminal Investigation DNA database. She labelled what's been going on in Queensland as, quote, the biggest forensic disaster, unquote. She said, there is nothing anywhere in the world that's like this. And in terms of the scale, how many years have these issues gone on for? Now, this is the guts of it. She further said, quote, we're talking about potentially false acquittals, wrongful convictions and really serious and violent offenders not being apprehended when they should have been and maybe given the opportunity to offend again. She said a full inquiry is needed to understand what has been happening inside the lab, for how long it's been happening and what is needed to fix it, unquote. Well, I'll come to that in a moment, but what this means is there may be criminals out there in Queensland who were found not guilty because their DNA did not meet some testing threshold. The good news is under Queensland's double jeopardy provisions, a person who has been charged with a serious criminal offence and is acquitted by a jury can be charged a second time if new evidence emerges that was not available to prosecutors at the time. Well, the forensic biologist, Dr. Kirsty Wright, along with the opposition leader David Christofouli, applied the screws to the Palaszczuk government, and an inquiry was called to allegedly find out what has been happening in the state-run forensic laboratory. Well, we learned today that Anastasia Palaszczuk has been handed damning interim findings from this public inquiry investigating alleged negligence at Queensland's Forensic Crime Laboratory. This could affect thousands of unsolved cases. The Commissioner, Walter Sofronoff KC, has not revealed the contents of his report, but government sources have described it as damning with the potential for, and I quote, widespread implications on the state's criminal justice system, unquote. Now, the report in the hands of the Queensland Premier is thought to focus on a disturbing 2018 decision by the Health Department's laboratory to downgrade its procedures for testing samples from major crime, such as murders and rapes.